Welcome to Kitchen Table Life with Nancy and Charity, a podcast where friends gather to spill the coffee. We talk practical truth about life's challenges, loving well, and leading strong.
Come on, friends, and gather round.
Have you ever been in a season of struggle, just longing for victory? Well, today we're going to talk about what it takes to walk in victory.
Happy June, Nancy.
Right? Almost July. I mean,
I
I can't
know.
believe that the heat is here, the rain has gone, and I'm just, I don't know, I'm excited about the next season. I know that you and I have experienced a lot of change, actually, even since the last podcast. Like,
Yes,
we didn't even get to do our second podcast in June because life just went boom. So,
yes, it has. We are busy ladies, that's for sure.
well, and I think because we keep it real here at the kitchen table, right?
Right?
And the truth is life just became so inundated that we had to push pause on going to two podcasts a month. It's still a goal, but I think it's important to talk about it
Yeah.
because the truth is in life we set goals and sometimes they do. I mean, we had all the plans. We
Right.
had all the schedules and then it just didn't work out. And so we're going to keep doing our one podcast a month and as soon as we're able, we're going to go ahead and pop that second podcast in there, but um, I'm grateful for an audience that, is gracious with us, right? I
Right.
know they're asking for a second one for a while, but if you'll just hang tight with us just a little bit longer, um, we're excited to bring it to you as soon as
And
we can.
right. And if you really miss us that much, you can go back and review one of our older podcasts.
Right, we actually have an archive starting to build up. This is getting exciting.
We do. There's quite a few.
Well, we're talking about quiet suffering today. And the earlier part of this year is what really why I think the Lord placed this podcast on my heart. When long before I knew Jesus, I was young and I was alone a lot. There were people who said they were my friends, there were people who were around me, but before I found Jesus, I just felt alone. And it was a quiet suffering because I had nowhere to go
Hmm.
with anything that was going on. And I had to keep it all together. I was a single mama. There was just different things going on in my life. And if I would have shared too much of the suffering I was going through, it would have come at a cost.
Hmm.
Because those people that called themselves friends maybe wouldn't have kept their mouth shut about what I was going through. Sometimes I think even you and I take for granted the relationship we have that we can call each other and just, share all the things and know that it stops at the end of that phone call, right?
Right. I know I reached out to you this week. I have been so busy with being back in what would you call it? Regular working world. And
Right?
and I love my job. It's a perfect fit for me. It's a God ordained position. And it's just been super heavy. And not in a bad heavy, but busy heavy, commuting
Mhm.
heavy, training heavy. I'm a trainer for a company, and so I am busy all the time. And so I have to take my new employees to where they're going to be and train them there as well and observe and travel quite a distance if necessary. And it's tired. And oh, the other day I was so tired. So at the end of the day, I'm just driving home and I just felt so defeated and discouraged and just tired. And I told myself, you're just tired, Charity. You're just tired. And then I feel like God dropped in my spirit. You're tired. You're just deflated. You're not defeated.
I
And
love that.
I was so encouraged, and I have like this whole image because I do this thing with flamingos, and it's like this. Nancy has not seen this yet, but I will send it to Nancy today, and she will love it after this podcast. But it's hilarious. It's a cartoon flamingo, and it's like one of those blow up ones you ride in the pool.
Yep.
It's deflated. And it says, I'm just deflated. I'm not defeated. And I'm gonna put it on a purse. I'm gonna get a knapsack. I'm gonna make stickers because this is like my
Your mantra.
it really is. And so that was one evening. And then the next day, early morning, all kinds of stuff just kind of dropped in my atmosphere of life. And I picked up the phone and I called Nancy. And I was like, Nancy, girl, this is what I was like. First, number one, you're at work. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, can you talk? And she's like, I wouldn't have picked up if I couldn't. And it was very, very early, so she was probably there early because that's what Nancy does. And so I told her what was going on, and bless her little heart and her, godly wisdom, she gives me a godly ear and godly advice and passed it along to me, and I was more encouraged. But I very easily, with being as tired as I was this week, and then having that stuff just drop into my atmosphere, it could have been very easily to let the enemy overwhelm me.
Hmm.
And if it wasn't for a Christian community, then
Yeah.
and the friendship that we have that God's blessed us with, like, girl, you are like one of the branches of my tree. And um and she gets what I mean by that. But she's a branch in my life. And I'm just so thankful for that because it's so very important. And like you were just saying about being pre-Jesus, young and alone, not able to talk to someone. There are so many people that are like that out there.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because I don't like, where would I be if I didn't have the people to talk to?
Well, you know what's interesting about that, Charity, is how this podcast ended up in my heart is because the end of, I would say last fall and then the beginning of the year, I had friends that had gone through some pretty serious things, and I didn't find out about them until after the fact.
Mm,
And I was like, what in the world? And so two things happened. First, I questioned, well, maybe I'm not a good enough friend. Maybe I'm not that ear. Maybe I'm not, and that's okay. I don't have to be everybody's person. It's fine. And I was like, so maybe that's one thing. But then I was like, well, maybe they don't want me to pray for them because I don't, honestly, I'm just being fully transparent here. I don't want everybody to pray for me
right.
because I don't want somebody to pray, well, God, if you'd like to do this, please do this. I want them to stand on the word and call fire down from heaven. So, like if I'm asking you to pray for me, that's the expectation is that you're warring on my behalf. You're not just hoping that God will show up. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm not a powerful prayer. I don't know. And so I literally started to put it's probably about five friends under this inquisition because I was like, listen, if there's a character flaw that I need to deal with, I want to deal with it. I don't want to play around. And so I started reaching out and I'm like, okay, so this is now time two, time three over the past 6 months that I'm finding out about something after the fact. Can you tell me why you're not shooting me a text or picking up the phone and saying, hey, would you pray for me?
Right.
And there are a couple of reasons. A, they were it all goes back to isolation, but they were isolated out of fear.
Mm,
Thought somebody would judge them. And not just me. They weren't asking anybody to pray for them. They felt like they could handle it on their own. And so they just were like, I just figured it was just life in. And so I felt like I could deal with it by myself. Some of them, what had gone on had included a little bit of shame for one reason or not, or doubt, or maybe they had even gotten a little angry with God and they didn't want to say that
mm,
because, I'm a fellow believer. And so even though my practice has not been judgment, the enemy led them to believe that if they told anybody that was, that they would be, that they would be judged. And so I totally let him have it. I'm like, knock it off. You need to reach out because who knows how long you suffered beyond what was necessary because nobody was interceding for you, because nobody was praying for you. Now, God is God and he'll do all the things. And I absolutely believe in the providential will of God. But sometimes when the enemy has told us something, a lie, and we've believed it, we can't operate in God's
right.
truth
We're stuck.
because we've accepted a lie. So until that exchange happens, now some of that requires vulnerability, though. You had to be vulnerable enough earlier this week to call me
Right.
and trust that I was going to do it. And I'll tell you this, you made the comment just a minute ago, not everybody has that. And you're right. And that's actually why we started this podcast.
Right.
And so, can I just say that if you're ever in the middle of it, our email is kitchentablelife@gmail.com. Shoot us an email. We'll pray for you. We'll intercede on your behalf. We'd be happy to do that. Um, Charity and I check that email regularly. So don't ever, you're never alone, right? Just send a message.
Kitchen Table Life Podcast at gmail.com.
Is it? Oh, my
Yeah.
bad.
It's okay.
Kitchen Table Life Podcast. This is why we need each other right here.
Yes.
But I actually was preaching a sermon not too long ago, and in there, for whatever reason, the Lord led me to share something that, a habit that I developed out of that season I was talking about earlier, where nobody was available to me.
Hmm.
It was that I sleep with my phone right next to my bed.
Okay.
And I do that. And I know some people do that now as a habit. I have done it for decades. And the reason is there were times and there were seasons that I needed somebody, anybody, to be Jesus in the flesh for me.
Mm.
And I didn't have anybody I could call. And so I thought anybody who knows me will never be able to look at their phone and think, I don't have anybody I can call.
Aw.
Day or night, because my phone is right there and it's on. So now I might wake up a little groggy if you call me real late. But it's just a habit I developed. And I think the enemy seizes the opportunities to teach us that suffering has to be done in quiet, right? He talks to us
Yeah.
about the shame and the defeat. You know, just one word, defeat and deflate.
Right.
Defeat says I'm isolated and I don't want to, I'm not going to tell people I'm defeated because what might they think of me?
Right.
But I'm deflated as a temporary situation.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about a pool float, you get one of those little pump things, and just in less than just a few minutes, that thing is back up and floating and ready for a pool party. And so I think that's a great perspective. But you know what I love about both of our stories, and I know you have other stories from your past as well, but we've not stopped seeking. We
Right.
both have seasons when nobody's available, but we didn't stop seeking. And we had lonely moments, but we kept moving forward, searching uh, for those people that we could trust in. And I know, I remember when you and I first met, you're like, so you're my friend. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess I thought I was your friend. And you're like, no, no, you're the friend. I'm like, what do you mean the friend? And you said, every time I move to a new location, I pray that God will send me a friend. So
Yes.
you're my friend here.
Yes. And God has done that for me since I was 7 years old. And I'll never forget that. In fact, two ladies at a church in Maine, my parents are going on the mission field. And I'll just, real briefly, I'll give you the history. Nancy's heard this. But it was, we were leaving, going on to the mission field, and they asked me if they could pray for me. And I'm gonna get all emotional because that's what I do. And I'm exhausted. I'm deflated. People, tears come out, okay? And and they prayed for me and I said, "Well, I just want to know that I'm gonna have a friend." I didn't know where I was going. I'm 7 years old.
Right.
They prayed for me and like God put it in my heart that I was gonna have a friend. And I've moved a lot. And everywhere I've moved, God has always provided me a friend. At
Yeah.
least one. And I'm not a big like group circle of friend people. I have my
Mhm.
core people. I'm friendly
Right.
with everyone, but not everyone is close to me. And God has always provided me a friend that's close everywhere I've been. And Nancy, I knew as soon as I met Nancy, I was like, she's my friend. Yeah, she don't know, but we're gonna be besties. So,
And I was in your wedding, all the
yes.
things.
Well,
Went and found your wedding dress.
yes. Oh my gosh, and that's a whole nother thing. That was a miracle. But for me, it's more than like besties. Like I view you as a sister.
Yeah.
And that has it's a different type of relationship because even though we're not blood related, like we're
Mhm.
family.
Yeah.
And when you're family with someone, um you can bare your soul. You can be
Yeah.
vulnerable. You can go to them with your discouragement or your shame or whatever, knowing that they're going to hear you out and they're going to pray for you. And
Well,
yeah,
sometimes it's a kick in the pants.
yeah, or
Sometimes it's
whatever.
like, you know, you need to put your big girl britches on, suck it up, and get back out on the field, girl. And
Yes,
other times it's empathy, and other times it's like, no, let's stop and pray right now. You don't tell me anything else. We just need to pray.
right,
And you need those people in your life. And so if you don't have them, start praying them in.
right.
And I'm serious about that. If it's just God, send me a friend that I can trust who will call fire down from heaven for me.
Yeah,
Just pray for that. And but listen, you don't jump in head first, right? We did a podcast back in January called Do Not Cross, and it
right,
talked about boundaries, and boundaries are important, you know, and not just with relationships, but we have to bring people around us that their goal is, yes, to have fun, yes, to have venting moments, but really at the end of the day, are we bringing each other to the feet of Jesus? Are
right,
we being that iron sharpens iron? That they care what you're reading and what you're speaking and what you're praying. I started, and I don't even know how, I just do it because I have done so much study on the power of words that if you never something around me, and I know you know this, Charity, if you never or doubt something around me, I'm going to be like, what? Don't say that.
right,
Like you just 5 minutes ago, you asked me to pray for the opposite of that.
right.
We're not going to then come speak that into the atmosphere like death on those seeds, you know.
Death on those seeds.
Do not let those seeds produce, Lord. But we have to remember that boundaries are not rude. In fact, they're godly. And so when I start my friendships, they all have boundaries. Like you don't get to know all the things
Right,
when we first are friends, and you don't get to have someone like you said that we're sisters, we're family. That didn't happen overnight.
no,
That's happened
it
over,
grows.
can I tell you, it's been almost 10 years. Isn't that crazy?
Really?
Really? Yep, next year. Yes, ma'am.
Oh my Lanta.
Time flies.
Oh
So,
my Lanta. Well, we're gonna have to do something special.
well, we are actually. In fact, we're gonna the following year. We've got plans already. We talked
Oh,
about it.
that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, um, but boundaries is a double-edged sword, right? So boundaries are healthy from the perspective of I want to protect myself. I don't want to bare my soul to a stranger unless I feel the Holy Spirit prompting me to,
Right.
because there are people that will use that, as something that they can turn around and talk to other people about, or uh, that they maybe are being judgmental or whatever. So we start with the small things. It's a process.
Right.
But when I call boundaries a double-edged sword, it's because sometimes we set boundaries because of past hurts or relationships, and we put them in place to keep us safe. Unfortunately, because we don't evaluate and check those boundaries, when they're left unchecked for a long period of time, they can become the very prison that creates isolation that doesn't allow us to move forward.
Right. That can, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got to be evaluating. We've got to constantly be seeking the feet of Jesus, looking for his guidance and praying in those friends. But the Bible gives us great guidance on friends. And I just love that every answer you need in life, it's in the Bible. It
Yes.
really is. And I feel like people sometimes think that's an oversimplification, but 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." You can work to be the very best person there is, but if you hang out with the wrong crowd, your life is going to be impacted and changed. I've been
Right.
talking a lot about the power of the Holy Spirit recently, and that we're the temple that houses him here on this earth.
Right.
And it's like, do you understand the most powerful thing God has left on this planet right now resides in you? So when you walk in a room, the atmosphere should change based on your presence there.
Right.
But Proverbs talks a lot about friends. And Proverbs 17:17, it says, a friend loves at all times. In 27:6, it said, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. I
Mm,
mean, there have been times that maybe I've hurt your feelings or you've hurt mine, but it's not vicious or malicious. It wasn't intentional. And it's quickly forgiven, right? It's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I apologize, whatever.
right,
But these do-gooders that come into your life to, gather the information and then use it for fodder to be able to go out there and just talk to people, you're not looking for those. And then Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another.
that's
So
right.
until you go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then that is so good because birds of a feather flock together. You know, I'm just saying, you want people that are gonna make you a better person in your life. That's the whole iron sharpens iron thing. So if if you're positioning yourself with people that aren't gonna make your life better, and I'm not saying use people, I'm just saying even their influence, even just their habits, should our habits should encourage one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when with that verse, iron sharpens iron, and you relate that to us looking for seeking that friend that we can chat with, that we can have these conversations with, but yet keeping those boundaries in place until you feel the release to be able to do that. In the meantime, go sharpen yourself with multiple people. And you
Right.
can do that at church. Be part of a Sunday school, be part of a small group. Find a place in your community that, there are groups of godly people in communities across this country where you can find that they can encourage you. And it's there that you're going to learn their love for the Lord and where they stand and really see them walk out whether or not they're going to be the kind of friend that you need.
Right. And if you're in a place in your life where you feel like you don't have a safe space,
Hmm.
I do recommend Christian counseling to
Yeah,
help someone through different scenarios and situations. If you don't have someone to talk to or it's someone that you feel like you can't share with, um,
right.
don't be alone. Don't go
Absolutely.
through this by yourself because you don't have to.
Right. Well, and I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and I'm sure I'll do it again before we close, but quiet suffering never produces victory.
Mm-mm.
Because as long as you are suffering to yourself, you're isolated, and that's where the enemy wants you. In fact, over in James 5:16, it says, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. I mean, that just fills my heart when I read stuff like that. Like, this is part of God's design for us.
Right.
Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12 says, two people are better than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And I like that image there. A person standing alone, and I think of, this is ancient times, right? But somebody, in like downtown Nashville standing, where there's a broken street light by themselves. Being attacked in a big city is a reality when you're by yourself. Like, I don't even walk in a parking garage by myself. If I'm alone, I'll call my husband or one of my friends and I'll be like, this is the parking garage I'm at. About to get off the elevator on the fourth floor and I'm walking to my car and we'll talk till I'm in and the doors are locked.
Right.
Why? Because if something happens, I am physically alone, but I'm actually not alone. There's somebody that knows
Right.
where I am and what I'm doing. Do the same thing when I travel. So there's not ever anybody that does, there's somebody that always knows where I am at all times.
Right.
And that's exactly how God intended it. And when it says that you can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer, and even when it talks about one falling and the other one helping them up, that's exactly what happened the other day. You were in the middle of falling, you were deflated, you were just all in your head, and it was a 10-minute phone call. That's all it
Right.
was. And all of a sudden, you went from being in a ditch that you could have stayed in and mulled in all day long to being picked up and being able to walk with a different attitude, being
Right.
that puffy flamingo all day.
Yeah. Well,
So, and go ahead.
oh, no, I was gonna say, I just think it's so beneficial having people that you can talk to in your life. And
Absolutely.
we both know what it's like to be alone, and we don't want you to be alone.
No, I absolutely agree. As we close, I just want to remind you that you don't have to be alone. I know sometimes you feel alone, whether you're married, whether you're in a house full of people, or even in a crowd, you can feel alone. But the enemy would have us believe that that's where we've got to stay and that we've got to be quiet in our suffering. Now, I'm not talking about running into a crowd and yelling, "These are all my problems. Somebody help me," right? Or talking to every single person you know. Identify your confession. Go back to God's word. And even if we can't see it, what does his word say is possible?
Right.
Then start praying in those friends and start being in positions where iron can sharpen iron. And you will be amazed at what God can do. And if nothing else, Charity gave you our email earlier. Shoot us an email and we'll be praying in agreement with you for exactly what you're praying for in your life. And so, in that, I just want to remind you that quiet suffering never produces victory. You already have the victory within you. You have the power and the purpose and the call that God placed in you to do great and mighty things. And so, whatever lie the enemy is telling you, it's time to exchange it for God's truth and walk in the purpose He's called you to.
Until next time, be sure to like, share, and follow us on social media.
And keep it real at the kitchen table.